Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, January 23, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems, so we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you guys utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below, letting me know what the dance be like in your year recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of weather in your specific era. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the latest Euro and the latest GFS supercomputer models are showing. As we go to the next one, just 68 hours, so keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here. As we do that, we know 168 hours stands for 7 days. And we're also going to be focusing our attention on Jamaica right here, as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. The reds, the oranges, the yellows into the greens represents inches of rainfall. Alright, so we can see that as we head into Friday, the Euro is definitely adamant that there should be some amount of moisture coming into portions of eastern parishes. We also see some moisture to the south of us. We see some moisture in and around the Dominican Republic to the south of there, as well as to the south of Puerto Rico. We see a lot of moisture across Central America, including the Yucatan, Belize, and northern Honduras. Very interesting. Heading into Saturday now, we see that there is even more rainfall expected, especially on the north coast for sure. We also see some rainfall to the south and to the east of the island, and we still see that rainfall affecting portions of Central America. Heading into Sunday, we still are going to be plagued by some amount of rainfall, especially on the northeastern side of the island, and during the afternoon we see that it is a bit more widespread on Sunday afternoon for sure, all across the island. Very interesting. That's according to the latest Euro. We're going to be comparing it to the latest GFS shortly, but clearly we see that Monday definitely little to no rainfall. Tuesday, not seeing much rainfall at all across the island. There's some showers to the south and east of us, maybe some isolated afternoon rainfall across central and western portions. Wednesday, maybe some isolated afternoon rainfall. Thursday, northeastern parishes getting in some amount of rainfall, and we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours, and then we're going to be comparing that 168 hour mark to the latest GFS. So heading into Friday on the GFS, we also see that rainfall that's going to be coming into portion of eastern Jamaica. We also see that rainfall that's going to be plaguing portions of the Yucatan, Belize, Honduras, right there into sections of Central America. Heading into Saturday now, what do we see? We see rainfall across the north coast, rainfall to the east of us for sure. Very interesting. On Sunday, we see even more rainfall stretching from the east to the western end of the island. Very interesting. Monday, we see a very similar pattern to what the Euro was showing, more whites than anything else on the island. That represents little to no rainfall. Tuesday, we're starting to get in on some isolated shores across the east to the south of us as well. Wednesday, not seeing much of anything across the island, and even Thursday we don't see much of anything either. We clearly see that in terms of the 168 hour mark, that's Thursday, January 30, on both the year and the GFS, we have some consensus that there shouldn't be much of anything across the island. The Euro is trying to incorporate some isolated shores across the northeast though. You can also see an abundance of moisture across sections of the south central US. We're talking about Texas and the states to the east and northeast of there. The GFS is kind of showing something similar, but it's a bit more widespread and squashed down to the south. We can also see that rainfall that should be plaguing portions of Central America right there into portions of the Eastern Caribbean. Either way, in terms of the accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 7 days, both the Euro and the GFS supercomputer models are adamant that the most rainfall over the next 7 days from now all the way up until January 30 should be in these spots that are going to be getting all the way up to the burgundies. That represents 2 inches of rainfall. The purples into the pinks. That represents 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. And the 6 to the 8 inches of rainfall as represented by the peach colors. Clearly it's going to be Central America. We're talking about Belize, northeastern Guatemala, northern Honduras, eastern Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, into portions of Colombia, southern Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana for sure. Those are the spots that are seeing the brunt of the rainfall over the next 7 days, and clearly the GFS is in agreement with that. But we can still get in on some rainfall as represented by the reds, maybe up to an inch across eastern Jamaica, northern and eastern Cuba, eastern Hispaniola, especially the Dominican Republic, eastern Puerto Rico, section of the eastern Caribbean getting in on some of the action too, including Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, sections of St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe as well. And clearly, even the Euro model is adamant and in consensus with what the GFS is showing regarding these precipitation forecasts. So, excuse me. I hope that the persons who live in Central America as well as Northern South America are taking necessary precautions so that they're not that drastically affected by all of the rainfall that's to come. Let's switch gears and go back to Jamaica. And in terms of the close-up of the accumulated precipitation, we can clearly see that the most rainfall over the next 7 days should be plaguing northern parishes. We're talking about anywhere from St. James eastward, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland going to be getting on the brunt of the rainfall. And we clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus that Portland and even spilling into sections of eastern and northern St. Thomas going to be getting on the most rainfall over the next 7 days. Look at the greens into the yellows into the oranges. That represents all the way up to 58 millimeters of rainfall. And the Euro GFS a bit more reserved, just going all the way up to 47 millimeters of rainfall. Either way, still a lot of rainfall expected. I hope the people who reside there are taking necessary precautions, because we know that that area is definitely susceptible to some amount of land slippages, especially if there is continuous rainfall, and given the high elevation, definitely possible. So I hope people are being on their P's and Q's. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see the tail end of our frontal system right here, stretching from the northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down to the southeastern waters of the US. We can also see a trough right here to the north of the eastern Caribbean, another trough right here to the east of northeastern South America, another trough right here to the west of Jamaica, right there to the east of Nicaragua. And we can see a ridge of high pressure right here to the north of the main development region that we know is responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can make out all of these entities for sure. So the ridge of high pressure is somewhere up here to the north, and it's responsible for sending all of these low-level clouds from east-west all across the Caribbean. Look at the movement from the eastern Caribbean all the way through to Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. We can definitely see the clouds associated with the frontal system right here, stretching into portions of the Gulf of Mexico. The trough is somewhere down in here to the east of Nicaragua, and another trough should be somewhere right here to the north of the eastern Caribbean. All of these clouds right here squashed to the south are associated with the intertropical convergence zone, where we know the air from the northern hemisphere meets the air from the southern hemisphere, and then we have a lot of rising air, lots of cloud showers and thunderstorms taking place, which is why Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana are getting in on such bad weather as we speak. Taking a look at what was predicted in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Thursday, January 23, 2025. If you remember yesterday's video, not much was made in terms of an accurate forecast. The Euro was showing some rainfall, the GFS wasn't, so there wasn't much consensus for rainfall across the island. If anything would have happened, maybe eastern Jamaica in the morning. I know eastern Jamaica, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, so Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, and maybe western Jamaica during the afternoon. I know western Jamaica, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. But what ended up happening? No post was made because there wasn't much of anything in terms of bad weather today. What we can see though is a kind of northeasterly kind of flow, bring some clouds across section of some northern parishes, maybe some overcast skies, maybe some isolated shores. We also see some clouds right here across sections of Manchester, section of St. Elizabeth, before we lost the sunlight. And we can see that it is nothing significant at all in terms of heavy cloud cover, shower or thunderstorm activity. And even the infrared close-up satellite imagery confirms this. We don't see much in the way of heavy cloud cover and no thunderstorm activity at all. We don't see those high cold cloud tops as represented by, well, we know that represent the cumulonimbus clouds. That is represented by the blues, greens, yellows, oranges, reds, blacks, purples up in there. Don't see anything like that at all. Just some milky, whitish, low to mid-level clouds pushing across the island. And we definitely have the Barbican camera right here confirming what was being, well, what is the order of the day in general. We can clearly see people in their vehicles going about their business, and definitely sunny conditions. This was at about 13:51, that's what 1:51 p.m. on the 24-hour clock. We can clearly see people walking on the roads. Definitely a fair day in the month of January. And if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure, and they are planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the latest still image from the Weather Nerds website about the weather across Jamaica right now. Let's see what's taking place. Alright, so the latest still image is showing 0015 UTC, which is actually 7:15 p.m. So this just came out 16 minutes ago, considering that it's 7:31 p.m. right now. Not seeing much of anything. We see, however, some milky whitish colors represent some cloud cover across the water to the north of Portland, maybe across Portland as well. Let us see if we see anything on the latest Doppler radar imagery. Let's reload this so that we have the very latest to show. Let it load. Let's see if we can get up to at least 720. 720's Doppler radar imagery. Right now it's showing 630's Doppler radar imagery. Alright, so it just reloaded. We're going all the way up to 720. There we go. So we don't see much of anything taking place across the island at all. And what we see across the island on the north, that's the greens, the yellows, the reds. All of that is ground clutter, so don't be confused, especially considering that we're not seeing that on land either. Taking a look at the Guantanamo Bay Cuba naval radar imagery. Not seeing much of anything on this Doppler radar either across eastern Cuba or northeastern Jamaica. Maybe some isolated shores across the waters to the north of the western peninsula of Haiti, but that's basically it. Taking a look at the Cayman radar. Not seeing much across southern Cuba or western Jamaica, but we do see some isolated shores to the west and the southwest of Grand Cayman right there. And if we take a look at the latest from See Jamaica's YouTube channel showing the flat bridge camera, we can see that over there is definitely dry as we speak. The rear Cobra is definitely calm right now. Nothing in the way of bad weather. People in their vehicles going about their business. Taking a look at the temperatures right now. Well, I'm pretty sure that it's not there yet. It's on its way there to get down to 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay. But by about 4 a.m. on Friday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18 on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. And you can see Jamaica right here embedded in some slight orange colors. Now we can see from the key on the right that represents up to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And we know the normal temperatures for the month of January across Jamaica are around 86.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's about 30.2 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30.2 degrees Celsius to 32.2 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Friday. And unfortunately, we have some maintenance outage advisories here that we must highlight from MyJPS Online's Twitter page. And we have to highlight them because we know that when we have power outages in an area, it can definitely exacerbate the heat, making the heat feel even worse than it is because we don't have our fan or AC to cool down at all. Either way, If you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, let them know that a power outage is coming their way. We're talking about Claremont Drive and Claremont Gardens, as well as Darlington in St. Catherine from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., as well as Boris Avenue from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We also have a compound town in St. Elizabeth. I think that's the area around the cockpit country. Yeah, they're gonna be experiencing a maintenance outage at around 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you have friends or relatives who live or work in those areas, let them know what's to come. Alright, we have some tips here to beat the heat either way. It states here that when you're outside, you must seek shade. It also states eat fresh. Try eating cold foods such as salads and fruit. Rest. Make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak. Take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of keeping hydrated. Drink lots of water throughout the day, even if you're not thirsty. Put away those sugar drinks. Drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, oranges, reds, and the whites within those reds. And you can clearly see a lot of dry air stretching all the way across the entire Atlantic basin from Africa into the Gulf of Mexico. We know the dry air is responsible for putting a lid on the entire Atlantic as we speak, basically making it difficult for us to get any rainfall, lots of dry sinking air in general. So the lack of rainfall is definitely expected right now. And we're indeed grateful though that the Saharan does forecast for 2 p.m. on Friday, as most of the Saharan does right here across the southern main development region. We see the slight brown colors right there, and we're glad that that's all we see, because we don't want to see the dark shades of browns that we know can represent that vigorous plume of Saharan dust that can cause hazy skies, not to mention trigger some sort of respiratory illnesses in some persons. So we're glad that that's the forecast for 2 p.m. on Friday. We can clearly see that North America, Central America, the Caribbean, and the Bahamas, as well as Northern South America, are all in the clear for that time period. Alright, so let us take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow. We can clearly see that the Euro and the GFS are still adamant that sections of the southern, western, and eastern Caribbean should be getting on those purples. Represents up to 2 to maybe 4 meter wave heights. Even the southwestern Gulf getting those wave heights as well. Waters to the north of Jamaica up to 1 meter wave height. On the south coast, maybe 1.6, close to 2 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see the winds coming through the Caribbean from the east, kind of curving southwestward down into the southwestern Caribbean, pushing in from the north, from Florida all the way down to the western Caribbean, curving westward right there into Belize. And we see the colors. We're talking about those greens into the yellows that represent anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 knots, maybe even gusting to 25 knots in some spots. We see those yellows for sure. That represents those strong gusty winds, and it makes sense that the waves are also high in those spots too. Alright, taking a look at the close-up of Jamaica, we can clearly see what is in store for us. We see more of a northeasterly kind of flow across the island right here, and that leaves the southern areas not so much within all of the wind at all. We know that what that means, definitely going to be dry, hot times for sure on the south coast, definitely windy on the north coast, and it also means some relief rainfall for the north coast as well. So look out for that, maybe early morning or nighttime rainfall on the north coast. If anything, maybe some clouds building up on the south coast to bring us some afternoon or diurnal rainfall. But with how dry the air is these days, definitely going to be difficult for that to happen. And we can see the upper level winds should be coming in from the west across the island, but nothing too significant, especially considering that we're not going to be having any upper level clouds across the region. Taking a look at the rainfall forecast maps. Well, very interesting that both the Euro and the GFS maps are showing some rain bands to the east of the island as well as onshore across maybe eastern St. Thomas, eastern Portland by 9 a.m. even earlier than that on the Euro. Some of the rain bands are coming onshore, not so much on the GFS. It's around 9 a.m. that they actually touch land. like what the Euro is showing here. We'll see exactly what unfolds. Whatever happens at 9 a.m., I'll keep you posted. Skipping ahead now to about 4 p.m. we can clearly see what is expected. More of some isolated shores, mainly across sections of some central parishes, maybe inland areas of some central parishes, maybe sections of some western parishes too. We'll see what occurs. Both the Euro and the GFS models are adamant for the inland areas, for central parishes and western parishes. Either way, in terms of the accumulated precipitation forecast maps, clearly both the Euro and the GFS are in consensus that the waters to the east of us should be getting on the brunt of the rainfall. We clearly see those greens into the yellows that represent anywhere from 0.2 of an inch of rainfall all the way up to maybe 0.4 of an inch of rainfall for sure. We'll see exactly what unfolds. Either way, we'll take the rainfall. We're in the month of January and we're in our dry season. In Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive up to 20 millimeters of rainfall for the month. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive up to 3 inches of rainfall. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives for the month of January in terms of rainfall, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website will show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. You know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the math yourself. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus your attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have some clouds bringing some overcast skies, isolated thunderstorms as well to sections of southern Venezuela, section of Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana. We also have some low-level patches of clouds to mid-level patches of clouds passing through the northern windwards and section of the Leeward Islands, with some amount of isolated showers pushing through Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, Hispaniola as we speak. We also see the clouds associated with the frontal system still bring overcast skies and isolated showers to sections of Florida, the northern Bahamas, northwestern Cuba, and sections of Central America as we speak. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, let's see what's happening over there. Right now, as of 7:35 p.m., we can clearly see that waters in and around Puerto Rico definitely getting on somewhat of rainfall as we speak. Some light to moderate rainfall, nothing too significant. And if we load these images from about 1:50 p.m. today, we can see some rain bands pushing in from the east. That's some moderate to slightly heavy rainfall passing through the US and British Virgin Islands, pushing in from east to west across eastern to central Puerto Rico. You can also see some rainfall pushing in from east to west in and around Guadeloupe and Dominica. And if we take a look at the Barbados radar, we don't see much happening across Barbados' southern portions right now, but we see some rain bands passing through the north of the island, maybe some isolated shores tonight. We can also see a lot of rain to the north of there, pushing in from the east to affect sections of Martinique already taking place as we speak. Sections of St. Lucia getting on the action, maybe sections of the Grenadines getting on some of the isolated shores too. Scrolling down, not seeing much happening across Trinidad and Tobago right now, but we do see some rain bands to the east of Tobago. And if we take a look at the weather via Doppler radar images, we can see that there's not much on the ABC Islands radar. We do see, however, some rain bands to the east of northern Belize. We also see some rain bands across northwestern Guatemala, sections of the Yucatan Peninsula as we speak. And regarding where most of the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday. And we can clearly see that the most rainfall within this 24-hour period should be affecting sections of Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, southern Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, eastern Nicaragua, northern Honduras, Belize, and the southeastern portion of the Yucatan for sure, section of northern Guatemala. And we also see that the Euro is definitely in consensus with that. Those areas should be picking up the brunt of the rainfall tomorrow. We can also see some isolated showers in store for a section of northern and eastern Cuba, section of the southern Bahamas, eastern Jamaica like we mentioned earlier, section of eastern Hispaniola, especially Dominican Republic, eastern Puerto Rico, section of Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and Barbados for sure. And we clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this forecast. I know that when they're in consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.